Woo! Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the recap of just the Georgia Bulldogs versus Florida Gators. Man, it is late at night on Saturday, November 2nd. I got the Texas A&M, well, over my left shoulder. I got the Texas A&M South Carolina game playing right now. That looks like it's gonna be. It looks like an upset in the making. But you know why we're here. Let's talk about this, the greatest cocktail party ever. Georgia, Florida, and Jacksonville. Georgia wins 34-20 in what can be called a sloppy victory for the Bulldogs. Tale of two halves. You have the tale of two halves. You have the first half where Florida is essentially leading the Bulldogs, if I'm not mistaken, 13-6. In the first half, Georgia has done the same thing for almost 3 or 4 games in a row that matter. When I say that matter, you have the Alabama game, the Texas game, and you have the Florida game now. Mississippi State too. It seems that Georgia can't play two halves. They can play one half, make adjustments, and then play a pretty good second half. Carson Beck today was 25 of 40, 309 yards, 7.7 average, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. 3 interceptions, y'all. When I tell y'all at the very beginning of the game, I knew Florida had a good defense. Florida's defensive line, one thing, you may not like Billy at Florida. You may not like what he's doing. You may not like his play calling. You know, the other half of the podcast, Norwood, who's a Florida fan, hates Billy Napier. But one thing he has recruited is the trenches. And they have big, strong defensive linemen. I think they got one guy that weighs 400 and something pounds. And they make it very, very tough on the offensive line. And today, for the majority of the game, they made it tough on Georgia. Nate Frazier, 19 carries, 82 yards, 4.3 yards a carry for the Bulldogs with a touchdown. He is the future. Nate Frazier is a budding superstar. He gives me a lot of, I don't want to say Nick Chubb, because Nick Chubb he broke all the tackles. But he reminds me of a mixture of Nick Chubb and DeAndre Swift. He's quick enough to make you miss, but he is also strong enough to kind of run over you and break tackles. But back to Mr. Beck. Carson Beck, 25 of 40, 309 yards, 7.7 yards per pass. He has thrown, at this point in the graphic, it was 10 INTs. It's now 11 because he threw one in the second half, in the first drive of the second half. 11 interceptions in the past 5 games. Now, y'all know I am not a Bobo fan. I'm not a Bobo fan at all. But for the last 3 or 4 games, Bobo has been – sorry, I was watching the game. For the last 3 or 4 games, Bobo has called pretty good games. He doesn't have the typical Bobo call, like second and 11, and then we run a draw play. Like he hasn't had the typical Bobo calls that make you upset. Is Carson Beck a gift and a curse? Maybe he can't call the calls that he wants to, call the plays that he wants to, because he doesn't have as much confidence in Carson Beck. All I know is the way that Georgia played that second half, you're going to see Kirby Smart and Georgia and Bobo really start to game manager Carson Beck. What do I mean by game manager, right? Y'all remember when Kirby was at Alabama as the defensive coordinator? For the most part, until they got Lane Kiffin and had a change in philosophy, Alabama played defense, they ran the ball, and they had quarterbacks like John Parker Wilson, who were just there to manage the game. Don't screw up. Don't turn the ball over. Hit the open receiver off the play action pass. That's it. If you look at the second half of this game, that's exactly what Mike Bobo and Georgia did with Carson Beck. They didn't really put the ball in his hands to make difficult throws the entire second half. Now, the defense, once Florida fell apart, the defense pretty much just saw blood in the water. But Carson Beck has a real difficulty throwing the ball over the middle of the field. If y'all watch the podcast, y'all know that I talk about Anthony Richardson a lot, former Florida Gator who plays for the Indianapolis Colts. I say that he needs to learn to throw the ball over the middle of the field. Carson Beck is the same thing. He throws a lot of picks. He throws into triple coverage. And I think what's the most alarming thing about Carson Beck and throwing into triple coverage is the check down. One thing Mike Bobo does do is he's always going to have a check down. He'll take somebody out of running a route and just keep them to the left or to the right near the backfield, almost as a lateral to have the check down. And the fact that Carson Beck is skipping the check down to throw into triple coverage is past alarming at this point. I don't know if there's another quarterback or player in college football right now that has lost more money by coming back than Carson Beck. When I say lost money, that's relative because of NIL. What I mean is his draft status has taken such a hit for coming back. He looks totally flustered. Now, I said at the beginning of the year, I was like, man, Carson Beck plays like he has to get smacked before he gets mad. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's got this cool, calm demeanor. They call him Napoleon Dynamite, whatever. But he has this demeanor where it's like he doesn't let anything bother him. I think even in the post game, he said, I don't let anything bother me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But at some point, you're going to have to do some of the smacking. Like, we can't rely on the defense, and I'll get to the defense there. But, because I got to apologize to Dan Jackson. But Carson Beck can't keep starting out this slow. And let me tell you who they can't start out slow against is Ole Miss. Ole Miss just put up 500 yards and 6 touchdowns or whatever Jackson Dart did. And we got to go to Oxford to play them. Right? So we've been to Alabama, to Texas, mutual site game at Jacksonville, which is, that's 50-50. And then to Ole Miss. If you are not careful, Kirby Smart in Georgia, Ole Miss is going to jump all over y'all. And y'all going to have to rely on that defense again. Carson Beck is going to have to be better. And let me tell to those that are talking about benching Carson Beck, I'm sorry, I'm going to say that again. To those that are talking about benching Carson Beck, we haven't even seen a quarterback come in except for trash time. I don't know if there's anywhere else to go this year. And I think it's going to be an open competition for quarterback next year. So it's all on Carson Beck's shoulders. Maybe that's the problem. There's no threat of getting yanked. There's no threat of getting benched. Maybe that's the issue. But whatever it is, he's not seeing, and they're running the same defense. He's not seeing the zone. He's not seeing the extra man drop in zone defense. Florida ran a lot of similar defenses to that Texas ran in the first half, where they dropped somebody off. He acted like he was in man, disguise coverages, changing everything. And it really confused Carson Beck. And then in the third quarter, they started blitzing. And he looked like, at that point, he was a deer in headlights. Carson Beck is holding this team back. And I hate to say it like that because, at this point, they're still kids, right? But your defense has now bailed you out twice. Florida scored 20 points. We had 3 turnovers. Their first 13 points of the game. Their first 13 points of the game came off turnovers. Or maybe it was 10. They had 2 good drives. 2. They had that drive at the end of the half to kick a field goal. They also had the drive at the end of the game in the fourth quarter to drive down and run the ball in and score and tie it 20-20 before Georgia railed off 14 straight to make it 34-20. This game was a lot closer than it needed to be. I hate that Trevor Etienne got hurt. It sucks that Trevor Etienne got hurt. But at the end of the day, that's why you recruit. Let's move on to Florida. Let me tell y'all, Georgia, we got lucky. If DJ Lagway didn't get hurt, Florida probably makes this game even closer than it was. And I'm not talking about 2020. I'm talking about they have the lead going into the fourth quarter. Because DJ Lagway can push the ball down the field, right? Their other Aiden Warner, while he is okay, he also hasn't played. He was the third-string quarterback transferred from Yale. DJ Lagway is a freshman, has been playing co-starter, if you really want to call it that. He was the co-starter. So them losing DJ Lagway after 6 passes. Now, DJ wasn't that great either. He had that one pass off the turnover, right? Carson Beck's first interception. Next play, they go deep for a touchdown, which is a great play call by Billy. We'll get to it. But other than that, I mean, so that's 1 for 1. He was 1 for 5 for 1 yard after that. So, I mean, Georgia's defense was playing well, but Carson Beck turned into Quinn Ewers. Like, Georgia's offense was giving Florida's the ball in great field position the whole first half. Interception. And Carson Beck really should have thrown 4 interceptions. Maybe 5. I'm really, really impressed with Jaden Ball from Florida. He was really, really good. 17 carries, 64 yards, 3.8 yards a carry. I'm pretty sure 3.7 of those yards came after contact. And knowing that they're going to run the ball. Hate that DJ Lagway got hurt. I don't know if I've ever seen a game where everybody lost at the same time. Everybody won. Like, Florida lost because they lost. Georgia lost because they were losing until DJ Lagway got hurt. So in the public view, and I can't wait for the college football playoff polls to come out, AP poll to come out, because in the public's view, Georgia lost this game. Full stop. Being tied, being down to Florida, who lost their starting quarterback, their starting co-quarterback, all of their defense. I think in the third quarter, Florida had 5 straight plays of 5 straight players getting go out the game and not coming back, and that team still gutted it out. I talk a lot of trash about Florida because I don't like Norwood as a fan, but I respect Florida and Billy Napier for what they did, which is why Georgia won. Georgia won because they won. 2, Georgia won because Billy Napier, while I do respect his valiant effort, I don't think he is the coach for Florida. He's not the guy. But if we can keep him around and let him dink and dunk his way to 6-8, 6-7, 7-7, 8-3, whatever his record could be, SEC East is ours. Or it ain't no East. SEC is ours. We don't have to worry about Florida as long as Billy Napier's there. Now, he did recruit, but I think at some point their recruiting is gonna fall off. I don't know if he makes it through the rest of the season because I think they still have Texas and Ole Miss. They play the same schedule we do, so that's gonna be difficult. But it's a win for Georgia because maybe Billy Napier gets the excuse of everybody being hurt, so he gets to stay on for another year, which would be great for us. Lose for Florida. They lost, and that could be that Billy Napier showed enough grit and determination to keep his job. You never know. But as I said before, one person that lost for real was Carson Beck. Carson Beck probably lost $20 million over these last 2 games. Again, shout out Mike Bobo. I have been in all I've been in all of the blogs. I've been on Bleacher Report, ESPN, under the Splashcast. You can follow us, follow, subscribe on Instagram, Facebook, X, Threads. I'm very, very critical of Bobo because I got PTSD. I've been here before, and I'm not the only one. It's the entire Bulldog Nation. But you can't blame Bobo for the last 2 games. Can't blame him. Can't blame him at all. Let's move on to the defense. Dan Jackson. I got a lot of apologies to make today. Dan Jackson. Listen, I thought you were a try-hard guy. I didn't really respect your value on this team because, quite frankly, we've been spoiled with multiple levels and multiple depth, multiple players at one position. 5-star depth. But you coming into the game settled that defense down. Malachi Starks may be the best safety in the nation. Arguably. He is way more comfortable with you as his running mate versus KJ Bolden. No shot to KJ Bolden. KJ Bolden has done enough to play as a freshman on this team that has multiple 5-stars with him ahead of him. Dan Jackson knows the defense, which is why he plays. He's a sound tackler. He's a grown man. KJ's still 18. And KJ's always going to be in the right place. He's always going to be in the right place. Because otherwise, he wouldn't be on the field. But is he going to be able to get everybody else lined up correctly and help Malachi Starks? I think that was the thing that was missing in the first half. Malachi was there. He was down in the box more, and I think Malachi is more of a cover safety. I think he's a lighter version of Xavier McKinney, if you remember him from Alabama. Roswell, Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. But once they put Malachi back at the safety position and they brought Aguero back as the star and you didn't have to kind of have makeshift guys, and shout out to the makeshift guys. The freshmen played a hell of a game. Again, it was Carson Beck, not the offense. It was Carson Beck that put you in the predicament that you were in. But the defense looked totally different with Dan Jackson and Aguero out there. Totally different. Less misassignments, no blown coverages. Now, that does have something to say with DJ Lagway's hurt. Aiden Warner's hurt. Aiden Warner came in. Florida has all the injuries across the offense. I'm not going to discount that because that is a major deal. But Georgia, I'm only focusing on Georgia because what we have to do going forward. The defense looks way more organized when Dan Jackson is on the field. So, Dan, salute to you, my guy. I've been critical of you at times, but I see your value now. You're a coach on the field. I told you, you're a good grad assistant. You should be a safeties DB coach pretty soon. KJ Bolden's going to be great. He is going to be great. Second half, though, UGA, Kirk Herbstreit said something very interesting. He said, once Georgia gets you into what they know you have to do, 3rd and long, or you can't throw the ball, or you can't run the ball, once they make you one-dimensional, the game is over. And essentially, that's what it was. Once Florida couldn't throw the ball, over with. Now, it's hard for me to look at Georgia's stats. I'm looking at my stats over here. It's hard for me to look at Georgia's stats. But one guy that has made some money this year, Arian Smith. Arian Smith has been the clutch guy. Whenever Carson Beck needs to settle down, make a big play to get the momentum back, get some confidence back, and to be able to have confidence in what he's reading and seeing on the field, he goes to Arian Smith or Dylan Bell. Dominic Lovett is your good possession receiver. We are missing Ra Thomas so bad, unfortunately, but it is what it is. Shout out, game ball goes to Ben Urasek. Only 2 catches for 39 yards, but one of those catches was for 31 yards, and it was a momentum killer for Florida. It got Carson Beck back into a semi-groove because he was floundering. One thing Bobo has done, man, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 players had catches. He had Carson Beck only had 25 completions. And he spread it out to 9 players, and 7 of those went to Dominic Lovett. Told you, good possession receiver. Averaging 12.4 yards per reception. That means Bobo's pushing the ball down the field a little bit. I like it. Again, no shots at Bobo. UGA's run defense. The run defense. I don't know how many injuries we have. It's hard to find out in terms of who's healthy and who's not, because they don't really give out a lot of injury reports. I think Jordan Hall is supposed to be coming back. We got Tate Ratledge back, and it made a difference. He and Michael Morris. But, man, we have not – and it was kind of opposite in Texas, right? We were able to stop everything in Texas. But running the ball, Florida just – that, what was it, the zone – off-tackle zone was absolutely insane. They kept killing us with that zone blocking scheme, which is pretty much the modern football running game at this point. I want to say, what's his name? I think his name is Frazier. No, that's our guy, Frazier. Jacoby Jackson. Jacoby Jackson, tough runner. Florida's got some big running backs that are going to be a problem. I think they're freshmen and sophomores. They're going to be a problem next year, especially if DJ Lagway can get healthy. I'm pray and hope that it is not something wildly serious. Like, I hope he didn't tear his hamstring off the bone and he has to have surgery. I hope he can just be out for 6 to 8 weeks or whatever rest of the season and then come back healthy. You'll never want to win off a technicality, especially as the number 2 team in the nation. But Florida has guts, and they exposed that. They definitely prepared. What Billy Napier can do, he was in his bag when DJ got hurt. When DJ got hurt, Billy Napier was in his bag. Billy Napier likes to run the ball and do a lot of window dressing. Go back and look at that first half. They had Florida running all over the place. Like, they had so much motion. They had Georgia caught off out of position. He spent this 2 weeks and put in a really good game plan that he was executing. It's really just bad luck. It's just bad luck. But Billy was about to get in his bag, though, because he was able to go down the field. And I knew that. I told y'all in the pregame, and I think I told y'all if y'all go back to, our Instagram, you'll see a reel or our TikTok. I said Billy's going to call whatever. Now, he didn't call a lot of trick plays, but I said he's going to go downfield. Once they got that first interception on Carson Beck, I said if I were Billy and I'm coaching like I'm coaching for my job, I go deep first play. And what did they do? First play. Aiden Mizell, 43-yard touchdown. I was like, oh, now we have talked about Billy for so long for not having the cojones to actually go out there and call a game. But, boy, he was in his bag. They were throwing the ball down the field. They were zone reading. They were running off tackle. They were running well-timed screens. Florida was about to try to get in their bag, and then DJ Lagway got hurt, and that just killed all of that, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. Hopefully Georgia can get better. Moving forward, man, are y'all confident that Georgia is really the number 2 team in the nation? Can Georgia really be considered the number 2 team in the nation with Carson Beck playing this way? Is that possible? Because he's I don't know if I've seen a quarterback. Yes, I have, DJ Uiagalelei. That's who you look like right now. You look like DJU, Carson. Your first halves have been absolutely awful. You've thrown 3 interceptions in 3 games. If I'm not mistaken, Alabama, Texas, Florida, and in the other 2 games, you threw 1 interception apiece. I think that was Mississippi State and somebody else. So I don't know if I consider Georgia the number 2 team in the nation. Now, it does happen. It does help that everybody else keeps losing. I'll say that as I go to the scores to update. It does help that everybody else keeps losing, as South Carolina just is up 44-20 on Texas A&M. Clemson is down by 12. Kentucky blew it as they normally do. So everybody else keeps losing, which helps Georgia. But, I mean, right now, you can't. Let's see, standings. I want to go rankings. That's where I want to go. Let's go college football AP polls. Let's look at the rankings. Oregon looks like a solidified number 1 right now. Penn State just lost, so Ohio State's going to go to number 2. Miami's going to go to number 4. I'm sorry, Ohio State's going to go to number 3. Miami's going to go to number 4. Texas was off. Tennessee is about to win a barn burner. Texas A&M loses. So you don't really get hurt by this. I think Oregon extends their lead as the number 1 team in the nation. But I don't know if Georgia can beat Ohio State with Carson Beck throwing this many interceptions. Miami, I'm confident Georgia can beat Miami just because I do like Cam Ward, but Miami doesn't stop the run. They don't do anything on defense. They can score a lot of points, but I don't think they'll score a lot of points on Georgia. Texas will be an interesting rematch. Tennessee, I don't know. They look like they're inconsistent. They got a freshman quarterback. So maybe they are the number 2 team in the nation just because everybody else has been mid. Like, maybe that's it. But Georgia, for the standard that Kirby Smart has set, does not look like the number 2 team in the nation to me, which is also a testament to how good Kirby Smart is coaching and has this defense and literally everybody else playing. Now, the dropsies have hit the receivers a little bit, but literally how everybody else is playing and coaching, the only weak link is Carson Beck. Do they win against Ole Miss next week? Who knows? That's difficult. Because if Carson Beck throws 3 interceptions against Ole Miss, Lane going to try to put up some points, and he just got that contract extension. Lane going to try to put up some points on y'all, and it's going to be another frustrating moment. I'm going to end it there because I can sit here and go over this over and over again. But Georgia's got some soul searching. Now, Travis Etienne, I hope your rib gets better. That's one of those injuries that look like it takes 4 weeks and you just have to play through the pain. Georgia's a little depleted. What we're hoping is that we can hold on to the end of the year, get everybody healthy. I think Georgia, if I'm not mistaken, has one of those gimme games at the end of the season. So get a schedule. Yep, they play UMass on Saturday, November 23rd. If they can beat Ole Miss and Tennessee and get to UMass and Georgia Tech, they may rest half the team for UMass, and they may try to blow. You can't blow no team out with Carson Beck playing that way. But it would behoove Kirby if he gets another quarterback ready. What would y'all do? Would y'all bench Carson Beck right now? Yes or no? Y'all let me know. See y'all tomorrow. You see the Falcons in the background going to the Falcons-Cowboys game. We'll discuss it when I get back. Always remember, like, follow, subscribe, follow the Splashcast, follow me, Reggie at Atlanta Raised. See you on Threads, Twitter, social media, anywhere you get your podcasts and your interactions. Love y'all. Peace.
Hold on. What should they do? Like, follow, subscribe. Thank you, my friend. Be here for it.